Hello everyone, my name is Sylvain Chatel, and today I'll be presenting how privacy and integrity preserving computations can be achieved with CRISP. This is joint work with Apostolos Pyrgelis, Juan Ramón Troncoso-Pastoriza, and Jean-Pierre Hubaux from EPFL. In our interconnected world, data is being regularly generated by numerous actors in order to provide data-driven services. In this work, we focus on the standard model where a user obtains from a data source certified personal data about herself, and she subsequently shares it with a service provider. The goal for both user and service provider is to obtain some utility from the data through analysis. Several real-life use cases fall into this model from a wide variety of fields such as smart metering, activity tracking, and many more. However, this exchange of data creates major vulnerabilities in both terms of security and privacy. Integrity of the data processing can have major impact on the utility for the service provider, but similarly, the data can be used to infer much more information about the users that was initially foreseen or even agreed upon. For instance, in the case of smart metering, a cheating user could modify her reported electrical consumption to reduce her bill or to simply disturb the load balancing operated by the energy company. Conversely, several studies have shown that smart metering data is privacy sensitive, as a lot of information about the user's behavior can be deduced from it, for instance, presence at home, sleeping patterns, or habits. Similar concerns occur for location-based activity tracking, where a cheating user can incur monetary losses for the service provider, such as an insurance company, but the exposure of raw location traces is a major privacy concern for individuals. Finally, genomic data is also a great concern, as it can be used to infer medical conditions about the user, but also her family. Also, as it is the basis for medical decisions, the correctness of the analysis needs to be granted. Thus, in this work, we propose a new solution that we call CRISP, that enables privacy-preserving computations without compromising on security and at an acceptable cost and utility. The objectives of our solution are as follows. First, we want to protect privacy. That is, the service provider does not learn more than the required result to deliver the service. Second is integrity. We want to prevent the user from cheating the service provider by tampering with the data that was issued by the data source. Third, we want to achieve reasonable utility in the sense that the costs for both user and service provider are acceptable in terms of communication and computations, but also in terms of accuracy. Finally, we require that our solution works off the shelf, relying on already widely deployed software and hardware infrastructure. To achieve those objectives, CRISP relies on three main technical components. To protect utility and privacy, we rely on CKKS, a state-of-the-art homomorphic encryption scheme due to Juan et al. That enables approximate polynomial computations to be executed on ciphertext. To further protect privacy and ensure security, we rely on a combinations of commitments and blindings. Notably, we rely on a commitment scheme by Baumetal that enables range proof. That is, a proof that the committed value lies within a specified range. Finally, in order to ensure that the encrypted data is the one that has been generated by the data source, we rely on a zero-knowledge proof for arithmetic circuits based on multi-party computation in the head. Multi-party computation enables a prover to emulate in her head several players that will evaluate a multi-party protocol instead of a unified circuit. The prover commits to the state of each player, and the verifier will challenge only a subset of those to be revealed and check their consistency. In this work, we opt for ZKB++, introduced by Chess et al. As a practical implementation of an MPC in the head for zero-knowledge circuit evaluation. Overall, CRISP follows 5 phases: the collection and transfer phases that involve the user, the verification and computation phases at the service provider, and finally, a data release phase. In the collection phase, the user retrieves personal data about herself from the data source along with a signature. We consider the data source is using SHA-256 as the underlying hash function, as it is one of the most widely deployed hash functions currently. Once the data is in possession of the user, she can engage in the transfer phase. In this phase, the user generates ciphertext from the data, but also a proof that guarantees correct encryption and integrity of the data. To do so, we design a custom circuit to check simultaneously the hash of the data, the norm of the encryption noises, and finally the encryption of the data. The encryption block follows the same arithmetic circuit as the standard CKKS encryption. We simply force the encryption noises to also be input to the arithmetic circuit following the commitment scheme by Baumetal. Again, this commitment scheme enables range proofs to ensure that the noises are within specified bounds. The hash block follows the original Boolean circuit for SHA-56. As we need to interface the commitment block and encryption block with the hash block, we design a conversion block to enable interfacing arithmetic circuits and Boolean circuits for MPC in the head. From this circuit, we simply follow the zero-knowledge secret evaluator protocol from ZKB++ to produce the proof. Eventually, the user will simply offload the ciphertext, commitments generated through the commitment block, the proof, the hashes, and the signatures to the service provider. Upon reception of the message, the service provider verifies the proof, that is, the range proof, but also the zero-knowledge verification protocol. Through this process, it's guaranteed that the user has offloaded correctly the certified data by the data provider. The service provider can then proceed to the computation phase, where it can homomorphically evaluate any function acceptable by the crypto parameters to obtain an encrypted ciphertext of the result. In order to retrieve the final plaintext result, it needs to engage in a data release phase with the user. In the release phase, the user and the service provider engage in an interactive two-round protocol to retrieve the plaintext result. To prevent the user from swapping the result, the service provider will commit to blinding parameters and send to the user the commitment, the homomorphic result, but also a blinding version of this homomorphic result. The user will decrypt both ciphertexts and commit to the plaintexts. Once the service provider has received the commitment, it will open the commitment to the blinding parameters for the user to check their consistency on the plaintext. If it holds, the user will open the final commitment, revealing to the service provider the final result of the computation. At the end of this two-round protocol, both service provider and user are ensured that no one has cheated and that the result is correct. We evaluated CRISP on the three use cases mentioned before, namely smart metering, genomic data analysis through disease susceptibility, and location-based activity tracking. Overall, CRISP enables one-shot offloading of the data to the service provider with only a one-time cost to generate and send the proof. We note that proofs can hold numerous data points that do not have to be used all at once, but offer the flexibility to be valued at a later stage at the service provider convenience, at no additional cost once the proof has been verified. From a practical perspective, the smart metering case, packing up to a month's worth of data, incurs a communication overhead of roughly 650 megabytes, while the location-based activity tracking requires up to 1.6 gigabytes. This difference is due to the different cryptographic parameters, but also to the difference in the computation executed. For the smart metering, we operated an aggregation function, while for location-based activity tracking, we operated a polynomial approximation of an Euclidean distance. This can be acceptable, considering first that this can be done offline once the user has access to a high-speed communication link, that this is a one-time cost, and that several optimizations exist. Indeed, we identify three major optimizations to reduce the proof sizes. The first optimization is to rely on improvements in the front of zero-knowledge secret evaluators. For instance, the protocol by Katz et al. Operates in the pre-processing model, where an offline phase enables to reduce the number of required online interactions and in turn reduce the proof sizes. As you can see on the right-hand side, we can reduce the overall proof size by roughly 25%. The second optimization is to operate batching. This requires a slight modification at the data source, where instead of signing each data point individually, the data source signs a batch of data to the full capacity of the signature scheme. This can help reduce the proof size by roughly 50%. The third optimization is to operate random integrity checks. Rather than verifying all data points in the ciphertext, the verifier picks only a subset of those data. As you can see on the right-hand side, this reduction can lead to more than 60% reduction in terms of proof size. We also show that combining those optimizations can lead to practical results, where the proof size lies between tens to hundreds of megabytes. We also note that opting for a more arithmetically friendly signature method could help reduce drastically the proof size. However, those techniques are not yet widely fully deployed. To conclude, CRISP enables security, privacy, and utility by using zero-knowledge proofs and homomorphic encryption. It enables versatile computations on authenticated data while preserving privacy. It does not affect the accuracy more than the fully homomorphic encryption scheme does, and incur only a one-time communication and computation overhead for the prover. As future work, we will look into malicious service providers and how to further reduce the proof sizes by relying either on alternative zero-knowledge proofs or increasing the number of parties for the multi-party computation in the head. Thank you for your attention, and we'll be happy to take any questions.